Hello there! I'm Scotty, you're not. Just to let you know, you may hear some noise. I actually have the window open today. I wanted to get a little fresh air in my apartment, so it's stagnant and it's been nice lately. I finally turned off the heat yesterday. I've tried a couple times, then it got colder. And so then the bathroom floor gets colder. And it's hard for me to sleep and I get really cold. But it's been decent weather the last few days, so hopefully it stays decent. Uh, Turned the heat off yesterday. Slept was pretty good sleep last night. Well, for sleeping on a bathroom floor. But anyway, we're not talking about me sleeping on a bathroom floor. We're talking about the next film I'm talking about in a Tubi 80's horror weekend. Witchboard. And much like with Maniac, there is a bit of an agenda behind why I picked this one. I follow Madison Eastman, how do you pronounce her name, on Instagram, and she is in the new Witchboard remake, which I'm kind of interested in. But I've never seen the original, and I saw it was on here, on Tubi, so there we go. You can watch 2 and 3 on, as of right now at least, on YouTube, which I plan on doing at some point. I'm not waiting until October, I'm not waiting until uh, sequel-a-thon. I might just do them next week, get them over with. There's 2 sequels. This movie was directed by Kevin S. Tenney, who brought us the original Night of the Demons. This is his first film, by the way, but he would go on to do Night of the Demons, the original one, which is a decent film. Night of the Demons 3, but not 2 for some reason. He'd also do the 2 Witchboard sequels, Witchboard 2 and Witchboard 3. I don't remember the subtitles. One of them was called Possession. I think that's 3. And as far as I could tell by looking at the synopses of the other 2, 3 is the only one that actually has anything to do with witches. And you may watch this movie and wonder, and you may think to yourself, they never actually say the word Witchboard throughout the entire film. Well, and I want to give thanks to Joe Blow or for this little tidbit. Actually, it's not mentioned. I think they did, apparently, they did have it scripted but took it out of the script. It's not mentioned because that wasn't the original name of the movie. The original name of the movie was Ouija. But they were told, hey, I don't think you could do that because Hasbro owns the rights to that name, so they called it Witchboard. But apparently, it's older than just what Hasbro does because Rosemary, from the Dick Van Dyke Show, at one point in this movie says, I used to have one of those when I was a kid, with her granddaughter saying, I didn't know they were that old. Neither did I. It's like, how old is Hasbro? That's the thing. One thing I think of is that Ouija boards existed once upon a time ago, and Hasbro then took the patent or whatever, got the copyright, the right to sell toy versions of them. Our 3 main characters are Jim, who's an asshole, Brandon, who's also an asshole, and Linda, who is not an asshole, but she could sometimes get a little bit cranky, but that's not exactly her fault. The film starts at a party where Brandon, who is very obvious used to date Linda and is very jealous of the fact that she's with Jim, brings out a Ouija board and, of course, chooses Linda to kind of apparently, because the rules from the terrible Ouija movie that came out back in 2014, right? You can't do the lawns, or do it in the graveyard, and always say goodbye when you're done. Well, the graveyard thing doesn't really matter here, but the other 2 do. He says goodbye and everything, and never do alone, but she does. In fact, I wouldn't go outright say it, but I would say that Ouija, as bad as it is, could also technically be classified as a remake of this movie. There's a lot of plot points. Someone uses the Ouija board by themselves and invokes the wrath of a spirit, comes after them, killing people, that kind of thing. Of course, what are movies if not rip-offs of other movies? How many rip-offs of Friday the 13th do we have? Or Nightmare on Elm Street? Halloween ripoffs. Friday the 13th is a Halloween ripoff. Sean S. Cunningham said as much. Said, hey, let's rip off Halloween. You know, so what are horror movies if not already ripping off something? So there's that. And it's not a good movie. And I can say this, you know, when I reviewed it, I didn't think it was that bad. But I've since went back. I was going through Vudu. This was a couple of years ago now, I think. What can I watch? I'll put Ouija on. Put it on. Didn't make it 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And turned it off. I'm at this party. And Brandon summons this ghost of a little boy named David. At first, he says, oh, it's not David, because David died when he was 10, not 8, like it said. But he does the figure 8, which is confusing. But he's the 10-year-old, and he does the figure 8. That's his little symbol to prove that it's him. And, of course, Jim doesn't believe any of this. He's like, oh, it's bullshit. And if I do have one gripe about Jim, it's that he believes that this is bullshit for way too long than he should. At one point, there's basically proof that something is going on. They have a seance. Something is happening to his girlfriend, and he's like, bullshit. Nah. You know? This happens, and so then Linda gets sort of obsessed with this and starts speaking to David. And as she keeps on speaking to him, she gets more and more on edge, more and more difficult, which I think is which Jim interprets as a side effect of her being pregnant, which is a subplot that goes absolutely nowhere because she's not pregnant. Because they set it up, do you have the results of your test? And she's like, she assumes she's pregnant. So it's like, this ghost, because there's a line at the beginning where it's like, can you choose your parents? So it's like, the ghost is after the baby because he wants to choose her. This ghost of a 10-year-old boy who didn't get to live his life is choosing her to be his mom. I don't know if that was the original story and something happened, because by the time the movie ends, that is nothing. Because that's what I thought, and I'm like, it goes in a totally different direction. She's not even pregnant, it's revealed later. I don't know why that subplot is in the movie, but yeah. And this David, who she's talking to, apparently doesn't like Jim. Well, he's been an asshole for the first part of the movie. Nobody likes him by this point, you know? This is also one of those movies where it feels like there was another movie that came before this. There's a whole backstory with how Brandon dated Linda, and they broke up, and she picked Jim, and Brandon is too hoity-toity, although he looks as disheveled as Jim most of the time. And he's jealous, and then Jim doesn't like Brandon. They used to be friends, but then this whole relationship with Linda kind of tore them apart, and like, that could be a movie of its own, you know? Like, there's so much backstory with this that, I don't know. But I do know I keep looking. Anyway, Linda keeps talking to who she presumes is David, but something's not right. It starts to become more violent, and she's wondering what's going on. Eventually, this leads Brandon, who believes in this stuff. By the way, there's a conversation beginning of the movie where he doesn't believe in God or the devil, but ghosts are fine. If you believe in ghosts, that means you believe in the afterlife, and there's no afterlife without God. So therefore, there's no afterlife. Afterlife means heaven and hell. There's neither of those without God or the devil. So, if you believe in ghosts, sorry to say, pal, you believe in God and the devil. I'm just saying. Even Brandon, Jim calls him. I thought you didn't believe in God. He's like, I didn't say it was a demon. It's a ghost. They're similar in many ways, but also my point stands. I'm just saying. So after she is violently thrown around, Brandon has the idea to bring in this psychic medium named Sarah Beth. This is the worst thing in the movie. I'm sorry, I cannot stand her. She's constantly throwing out jokes and being goofy, and I'm like, what medium is this? What is this? It's supposed to be all fun and games, sure, but this is like, she channels what's supposed to be David, but she brings out the name Malfader, which I guess means evil. But then she dies. So obviously something's up, and that's when he comes to talk to her, and he's like, "Hey," Brandon comes to talk to Jim and is like, "Hey, Sarah Beth's dead, and you think that David didn't even..." By this point, he is still. This is the point in the movie. We are maybe halfway. I don't know. And Jim still doesn't believe this shit's going on, even after everything that's happened, everything that Linda's telling him. He's just like, but he agrees they have to do something. So after she throws herself at the wall, they take her to the hospital, and then they just leave her there. Apparently, she's supposed to be sedated, but they leave her there. So they take the Witchboard, the Ouija board. And yes, Brandon does confirm it's Ouija, not Ouija. Pronounced Ouija. So, and they're going to try to find if David ever actually exists. And they find there was a boy named David who died when he was 10 years old. And they were trying, then it said, oh, well, we need to talk to his parents then and figure out, the truth. Well, they found out that his parents actually died on the same day, but 2 weeks ago. From 2 weeks prior to them doing it. So, did Malfader do it to cover his ass? So they go down to the docks where David drowned and start talking to him. They found out that it was David that was at the party, but David hasn't been talking. David isn't the one who's been talking to Linda this whole time since she took the Ouija board home. Yeah. And so they try to ask about Malfader, evil. Who is it? Evil. They eventually find out about Malfader later, but Malfader later. Or that maybe it was before this. Who is Malfader? Evil. And he spells out her, and they're like, her, who's her? And to Jim's credit, he's like, didn't you say that they could misspell things? Right, he's actually trying to spell here. Malfader is here. And he blows out these barrels, and basically Brendan has the same fate as David. He dies. And Jim, this is the scene I didn't get. He cries over him. I know they used to be friends, but it doesn't feel like he'd cry like this. But Jim's got to go save his girlfriend. He calls the hospital, finds out she left and went home. And this is an issue for me. How is she using the Ouija board at home if they've got it? They've shown there's only one board in this entire movie. How is she using it if they got it? Unless because they make a big deal earlier about, oh, you were going to bring the board to school and give it to me. So this means he didn't have another one, I'm assuming, unless he bought another one for this trip specifically instead of having Jim grab the one that's at his fucking house. I don't know. But at this point, when Jim finally gets back to the house, Linda is completely possessed and tries to kill him with an axe. But he's able to persuade her to get out of there, and it's all happy, hunky-dory. They get married. And, yeah. And again, I read the synopses for the next two, and it has nothing to do with it. They have nothing to do with these. The third one is the one that has something to do with witches, I guess. But then the second one is as long as the board's in there. And like I said, the movie kind of ends with taking way too long for what the obvious thing is going to happen. Well, Rosemary and her granddaughter are going through stuff, and the granddaughter finds the Ouija board. Oh, it's a Ouija board. I heard those things. I had one of those when I was when I was a little girl. I didn't know they were that old. Heh, heh, heh. And, so they throw it in the box, and you hear the little girl say, I wonder if it still works. And then they just have the camera shot on the Ouija board, and it zooms into the yes. And I'm like, okay. And you're just waiting for it. The planchette to just... And it does. I'm like, do we really need to get that close in of a shot on the yes? I think we get it. I think we got it. We can get it. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. I think the acting is pretty hammy. Especially went from the actors for Jim and Brandon. They get a little hokey. When Jim starts crying, I almost started laughing. It's some of the most hammy cry acting I've ever heard. I was just like, is he for real? Was that the best take of that? Okay. Fine. But I understand. Like, I don't know. Like, you went through this whole movie hating this guy, and now... I don't know. But again, if we had more showing that used to be friends, like flashbacks or something, I don't know. But it's fine. I'll give it a low pretty good. I liked it. It was fun. I'm interested to see what the sequels do, and I'm ready to see the remake if it ever eventually comes out. I'll do that. So, yeah. Also, I thought this was a full moon. I was actually thinking of Witchcraft, which has like 50 movies or something. It's another one of those ones like Puppet Master, which is like we're gonna keep throwing those off. And also, Kevin S. Tenney also directed a movie called Witch Trap, which is not connected to this movie in any way. It just has witch in the title. So, what are your thoughts on Witchboard? When it comes home, you should like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I'm Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.